All right, y'all. Let's do a little bit of slot car science today. A little slot car science and a cold snack. How about that? So, first off, I ain't never worked for NASA, but kind of close. Used to work for an organization called U.S. Army Space Command, and they were first in space. Y'all can share that with Brian. He'll love that. But they launched a satellite in like 1956. Of course, the Russians had already beat us to it. But the Space Command awarded me one of them, and that's a Senior Space Operations badge. It's actually an Air Force badge, but when you worked in space, it was U.S. Space Command, and then Army Space, Navy Space, Air Force Space. But now they're all just Space Force, so they got new badges and whoopties. But anyway, so I'm not an RF engineer, but I used to play one in the Army. And what I got set up here is a device called a spectrum analyzer. This one is a SA244 Bravo, goes from 1 hertz to 4 gigahertz. I got it set up at a start frequency of around 900 megahertz. Because what we're interested in is if the suppression accomplishes it in typical, I'll say, user items. Like used to be the first cell phones we used. Some of those were actually pretty low, but not cell phones. Those cordless phones, they used to be in the first cell phones were in the 8 to 900 and something megahertz range, and then the cordless ones were in about that range, and then the cell phones were all the way up as high as 2 gig. You just saw a noise spike right there. That's probably coming from my Wi-Fi because it's at about 2.2 gigahertz or so where that's popping up. So I start at 900 megahertz and I go out to 2.9 gigahertz. The typical thing that it could interfere with common in today's households is going to be your Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, maybe even 5.4 gigahertz network. Digital TVs, they're down in that UHF. I can't remember UHF. I'm really bad with the frequency bands anymore, but there's VHF, UHF, S-band, which is also UHF, L-band, which is about what I got going here. L-band goes 950 to 2250 or 2150. But at any rate, so this will give us an idea, and I got this high-speed test rig right here, which is just a piece of power track with a power thing plugged in and Auto World controller cable that I twisted off the ends. I'll reuse that so it's just at max speed of a standard Auto World power pack, the standard issue, not the adjustable one. So, and my antenna is just a broadband antenna, so it's not tuned to any, although I got it collapsed all the way down, so it'll be more sensitive in a mid to higher range. What I did, I reversed engineered the board. And the first device, that thing that I called a capacitor, the yellow thing that connects right here, that's called, I'm guessing it is. It has a low continuity straight through. It's this device right here called a MOV, metal oxide varistor. It's designed to open if you exceed a certain voltage. So it's rated at a certain voltage. Then it goes through a couple coils or inductors to a capacitor and then back to the other side. So you would only use one of these on DC voltage because this is an electronic short to an AC power pack if you hook that up. But that's what it's trying to do anyway. is trying to shunt AC signals, RF noise, to ground. And then it just goes on up. There are three inductors I saw. No, 2 inductors, 3 capacitors, and then the motor. And the 3rd capacitor is going across the light bulb or the motor leads. And you'll see that on a lot of other slot cars too. Like this Carrera has the same thing. Them little blue things are inductors, and then a capacitor across the motor. Now, on 132 scales, the inductors, the capacitors will be important, and maybe a ferrite bead if you're using a digital chip, because that RF noise will screw with the chip. That's my guess. But in this case, so we got a factory original amp chassis that runs, and I hadn't done anything to it. This is off of one of those Auto World, the haulers, Heartland haulers. And I'm gonna put it on here and we'll see if we get any. So nothing abnormal on that one. Here's one that I had modified, right? Removed the board, connected the wire straight from the pickups to the motor itself, right? So let's see what this does. You can see it's generating. Now the sensitivity of this is real high. A signal at neg 65 at a 1 dB per division. But there was some noise off of this chassis. Especially that initial burst. So when you pull that trigger, you'll be, well, that one signal keeps popping up. So disregard that one when you see it, because that's likely my Wi-Fi. So next is a Mega G Plus chassis. And somebody had asked about the Mega G Plus motors. Was it the same? The answer is no. But it does have a board, and I briefly looked at it. It looks to be the same affair. It's a LC network, or an inductive capacitive filter, LC filter, designed to suppress RF noise. Let's see how this one does. It's Mega G Plus 1.7 chassis. Not seeing much on there. Now, for reference, let's do standard Auto World G Plus, or not G Plus, Auto World extraction chassis. Y'all see that? That one gets real lively. That initial spike is, that's my Wi-Fi again, I'm guessing. It could just be me. But yeah, so the extraction, that has a lot of interference going. Let's look at a Tyco 440X2. This is a narrow body. Doesn't really matter. Not as bad as the pancake motor, but there was still some interference. And then, so I got one of these set cars I pulled out of the shelf. It's a late model Mattel. I think it came from the Super Sound NASCAR. I don't know. Came with that, I think it comes with that 99 car. I don't remember. But these, the later model Mattels, or could even been Tyco still, I don't know, have a capacitor across the motor. Now I like them because you can solder a bulb on there pretty easy. Well, let's see how that just capacitor across the motor does. So there is, you saw those signals going, there is a little bit, but it seems to be down at a lower frequency. So but this one doesn't have any inductors. It's just a straight capacitor. 102, I don't know, that's 10,000 microfarads, something like that. But so it did a heck of a lot better than the straight 440X2. Yeah, that one's transmitting out to space right there, isn't it? And that auto world, we might have a ET show up if I keep running this one. Look at that. Man, that one is something else. My goodness. So a capacitor does work. The auto world boards do work. But my question is, why would they care? If it's an FCC compliance issue, why haven't they banned these yet? Because these dudes are generating a lot, which means the other pancake motor type ones will be just as bad, like your T-Jets, your 4 gears. I don't know. I ain't gonna go dig a Super 3 out right now. I'm sure it'll be kind of, it's an inline motor like a Tyco. So that's about it. Man, I don't know if we learned anything, but I'm still gonna modify them and get rid of them boards off of these, because that gives you reliability. I told you I had the one that broke, and that'll be easy fix once I get it all wrapped up. But for now, man, I think that about covers it. I will do a video on modifying one of these amp chassis from start to finish, in case you want to adventure down that lane. But other than that, it's time for cold snacks. All right, y'all. Take care.